Canyon fell off the second tier of a steel cage to recreate the Mankind vs. Undertaker spot in the same venue where Owen Hart passed away less than a year prior. That's the kind of tone-deaf nature that WCW had at this point. I'm John Ritland. This is a retro review of WCW Slamboree 2000. It's WCW 2000. So it was messy, at times fun, but didn't make a whole lot of sense and was really goddamn bad and only got worse as things went on. Yeah, this was Vince Russo booking in a goddamn nutshell. It was fucking horrendous. So we get weird promos and, like the tiered thing where it's supposed to be like, oh, hyping up the Ready to Rumble steel cage match. Yes, that was something they actually brought in. And boy, it looked really fucking stupid. It looked even stupid when they did the Tower of Doom cage at Great American Bash 88. I believe it was 88. 88 or 89. It might have been. It was one of those. No, it was 89. But anyway, the whole point is that steel cage tier was stupid. This was even worse because you had to climb up to get to this guitar room or get to the World Championship that was above this whole thing. But before we get to that, we got to start off the beginning like Chris Candido with Tammy versus the artist formerly known as Prince Iukea with Paisley. It was a sloppy Cruiserweight Championship match. The women fight. There was a chair shot to Iukea. And he kicked out somehow, even though I don't think he was supposed to. There was a pile driver and then a diving headbutt off the top, and Candido got the victory. Cool, whatever. Good, great, great first match right there. It was a great start. It was fucking terrible. And I like Candido. I like Iukea. Tammy the Tramp, she can piss off for all I care. And then Tammy got disrobed because that's all what we wanted to fucking see in 2000. We definitely don't want to see it in 2020. And if you do, you are mad. Please seek help. I'm not one to kink shame, but seriously, why would you want to look at a pile of roast beef left out in the sun for 5 years on Skype or on OnlyFans when you could, I don't know, not do that and not lose your appetite? In fact, I just lost my appetite having to say that. Oh boy. So, Terry Funk is looking for Norman Smiley, finds him or somebody in a mask in the bathroom stall, much like he had on a previous Nitro or Thunder. And it's Terry Funk versus Norman Smiley and a mystery partner that turns out to be Ralphus in catcher's gear. This went all over the place backstage. Chairs, a table bump. Ralphus' pants got pulled down at one point, and commentary just absolutely lost it. We did not need to see that. Now, poor Ralphus, I really felt bad for the guy, because he was just made there to be a comedy, pawn and everything. There was a ladder to Funk's head. He got busted open. Of course, Schiavone lost it. A roll-up of all things. Pinned Norman Smiley 1, 2, 3. Rushing through this goddamn pay-per-view. Fucking Christ. Sean Stasiak, the perfect one, versus Curt Hennig. It was not good. It wasn't. Hennig was washed by this point, though he was trying his best to get Sean Stasiak over. And eventually, Stasiak would hit his variation of the Henningplex 1, 2, 3. And it isn't that Stasiak is bad. It wasn't even that Hennig was bad, because Hennig would have actually a good performance at the Royal Rumble 2002, but his back was just so torn up by this point. We then get Scott Steiner versus Hugh Morris, who is now going to be called General Rection Hugh G. Rection. Because penis jokes. And my God, they made a lot of dick jokes and a lot of penis and a lot of hard jokes. Jokes that were hard to swallow, pun intended, on commentary. This was not good at all. The Freaks attack Hugh Morris or General Rection. Then Scott Steiner keeps attacking the ref. Maybe it's because he was a ginger. I don't know. I can't think of any other reason. He was a redhead. Maybe he doesn't like redheads. I have no idea. Security, steps in a little bit later, but the funniest spot was the stiff clothesline, and then Steiner tries to double underhook and basically almost drops Hugh Morris on his head. They do the sonic screwdriver variation, except Hugh Morris gives it, I'm just going to call him that, gives it to Steiner. Yes, General Erection, his erection, gives it right to Scott Steiner, and then hits, it's supposed to hit the moonsault, but misses it, except his feet hit right on the back of Scott Steiner's head. It's impossible to call. It's like, I don't know if he was supposed to completely miss it, if Steiner didn't move out of the way in time, if Hugh Morris is supposed to hit it and Steiner is supposed to kick out anyway. I have no idea, but his feet went right into Scott Steiner's head and neck, and it was ridiculous. And then one with the Steiner recliner. And then the Misfits in action attack, and security decides to attack them. Then Booker shows up and attacks Scott Steiner. And then Canyon talks about DDP and friendship. Oh dear. Mike Awesome versus Canyon. It was fine. Match was fine. Awesome was working on Canyon's back. Canyon kept coming back with variations of offense, like, neck breakers and stuff like that. The amount of moves he could create, guy was a goddamn genius. Terrible he's no longer with us. There was this hit to Canyon's head that looked a little bit bad. There was a cord around the neck. Man, Benoit used this as influence. I'm going to drop those jokes one of these days. No, I'm not. We get, this tease of like going on the concrete, the powerbomb on the concrete. Here comes Kevin Nash. And then here comes a bunch of new blood, Douglas, Bagwell, and a whole bunch of people. And what ends up happening is the match ends up being declared a no contest. And then Flair and Sting come down, security tries to stop, and then Russo and Liz are watching backstage. So that's all thrown out. All that's thrown out, and all these are guys we're going to see a little bit later. Russo is basically, being belligerent to Liz, belligerent, if you will. And I feel bad that Liz is no longer with us. Thanks, Luger. Thanks, you piece of shit. But yeah, this is a terrible storyline, mainly because it involved Russo, because Russo was never involved in any good storylines in his life. We then get Lex versus Bagwell, and this was bad. This was really bad, because you're asking Bagwell, somebody who was never good in anything outside of tag teams, to work a singles match, and Lex, by this point, was completely washed. I mean, he had done some good stuff even in the late 80s, early 90s. Almost said early 80s, but that would have been wrong. And even into the mid-90s, he was still decent, but he was never great. And by this point, he was like roided up like crazy. He couldn't really do anything, and he was the better worker compared to Bagwell. So, lots of rest holds. Lost lots of rest holds. Easy for me to say. We then get Liz with a bat. Buff gets it, hits Lex a few times, and then drops the bat. Liz gets it, hits Bagwell when he's trying to go for the Buff blockbuster, and then the rack for the tap. And then Chuck Palumbo shows up, dressed up kind of like Luger, not with the same hair, but dressed up in the same tights and stuff like that, and hits his own rack on Lex. This was terrible. And then Bagwell takes Liz back to Russo, seemingly. Or eats her. I don't goddamn know he didn't eat her, because she showed up on Thunder. Oh God, that episode, the episode of Thunder where Liz is in, oh God, oh no. The May 10th episode of Thunder. Oh boy. Shane Douglas versus Ric Flair. I will get to that stuff. I will keep reviewing WCW 2000 even if it drives me completely insane. So I give it about 3 weeks. No, I'm going to keep doing it, because you know what? I have to remind myself that as bad as some modern wrestling is, it can always be worse. Shane Douglas versus Ric Flair. When Ric Flair was on the offense, it was fine. Shane Douglas, again, I feel like I'm saying this a lot about people, was completely goddamn washed. And we then get a chain spot. We get Bagwell right in. We get a bat to Flair, and, a roll up for 3. So Shane Douglas pins Ric Flair. It's because Russo interfered, the Sting mask and, wig and stuff like that, in a leather coat. Oh no, it's Russo. And then Flair's trying to attack him, and suddenly Lex throws the guy into the ring, and Flair starts attacking him. But wait, Russo runs down, hits Lex. Who is it? It's David Flair. It was obvious it was David Flair. I don't know why that was shocking. And then we get 5 minutes with him, with Russo, and Russo's trying to do the DX crotch chop and absolutely blowing it, because he's a fucking idiot and not athletic at all. Here comes Nash. He should have been able to powerbomb Russo right through a goddamn table there, because it would have at least gotten Russo off of TV and possibly out of WCW, because even though the company was torpedoed, it would only get worse from here. Daphne comes in. Hey, at least Daphne looks good, and Daphne tried. Daphne did try to do some stuff, but they didn't give her all that much to do in WCW. Yeah, that was pretty shit. We then get Vampiro versus Sting. We get big dive from Sting, and we get some pipe action. Vampiro draping his lengthy pipe all over Sting. We go with more action on the ramp, more pipe action, and then 2 Scorpion Death Drops, 1, 2, 3. Good. We then get DDP to Arquette. Stay out of my way. Just do that. I will win the championship. Just stay out of my way. Nash is backstage looking for Russo. Tears his quad. Had to say it. So Kidman with Tori versus Hogan with Bischoff as the ref. Horace Hogan was there, and then Horace Hogan was sent backstage. Okay, so they built up all this thing where it's like Kidman was going to be able to have all the advantages and beat Hogan, even though he had technically beaten Hogan. He actually hadn't beaten Hogan. And Kidman had his ass kicked pretty much all the time by Hogan. Anytime Kidman got an advantage in a segment, he'd get his ass kicked in the next one that they had. So he was completely wasted in this feud. Now, granted, Kidman may have never been a main eventer, but what's the point of putting him here against Hogan if you're not going to at least have him win via shenanigans? They didn't even do that. They couldn't do that. The timing was so goddamn off. It was almost as bad as Hogan and Warrior 2, Electric Boogaloo. It was about that bad. So, Bischoff gets knocked out by Hogan after he won't count for him, and then a chair. And now we get the table. Hogan gets busted open because, of course, he fucking does. Bischoff goes through the table. And then Kidman tries to splash Hogan through a table, but misses, crashes through a table. Horace Hogan comes back down, takes Bischoff's arm, like Austin did to Vince at Over the Edge 98. 1, 2. So he basically did 1, 2, 3. So technically, Bischoff counted the pin. So Hogan won. Great job building up Billy Kidman there. He was pretty much, he wasn't going to be considered all that, much of a main eventer or even close to that, especially by Great American Bash 2000. Sweet Christ, why did I agree to do this? It's because I'm mad. It's because I'm simply mad. So, Ready to Rumble cage world title match. 3-tiered cage. Cage, big cage, you gotta get ladders, get up to the door, get up there and everything, battle through all this stuff. A wall, not the wall, goes down at one point, and DDP and Jeff Jarrett almost fall. Had they continued the momentum and not stopped in that good pre-planned spot, had they not stopped properly, they would have gone right off the cage. It was not a good idea. Also, Arquette was in this because Arquette was the world champion and did the proper things with his payoff, and I ranted about that on the Thunder episode. You can check out that entire retro review if you want to hear me rant for about 30 fucking minutes. This was abysmal. It took forever to get to the second cage. It was a complete fucking mess. Here's a question. They're up on the second cage, which is at least 20 feet high. How did Mike Awesome sneak up there and was he able to sneak up on DDP? Serious question. I mean, not even from the camera perspective. How was no wrestler aware that he was doing that? Was he hiding and was he just like laying on top of the cage and people were like, oh wait, here's your cue, fucking go? Or did he climb it and nobody bothered to say anything? I mean, like, seriously, how in the world did he get up there? And then, oh wait, Jarrett's bleeding, DDP's bleeding. They do the wall spot that I talked about. Arquette is being given a guitar because there's this guitar room with a bunch of shattered guitars, or easy shatter guitars. Sounds pretty much like a bad line of musical instruments. And DDP gets hit with a guitar from David Arquette. He screws him over. He's it's like he was dressed all evil and everything. He was just like an evil rocker and stuff like that. And what ended up happening is Jarrett won. Jarrett won, and then Kanyon comes down to help DDP by attacking Mike Awesome. And then Kanyon gets tossed right onto the stage. They had a ramp thing going, like, an old school ramp like they had for some WCW events and they had for some of the TNA, the Hogan TNA era. And they had Kanyon do that to recreate the Mankind Undertaker spot in the same fucking venue where Owen Hart passed away a year prior. So that is exactly what I gotta fucking say about that. That is what that pay-per-view was. It was goddamn abysmal. I'm not gonna blame any wrestlers that were involved in that spot, whoever planned that spot and did not think, you know what? Maybe we should wait and not do something like this. We're gonna hurt Kanyon, and oh yeah, it's the same venue where Owen Hart passed away, so it was fucking stupid. So I'm just gonna leave it at that, folks. This pay-per-view is goddamn abysmal. Unfortunately, doesn't get any better. I got Great American Bash 2000, and I have Bash at the Beach 2000. I Bash at the Beach 95. I have so many pay-per-views to cover. So anyway, folks, that's it. Agree, disagree, what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.